Hello everyone, welcome. This is a Yin Yoga practice with the intention or the focus of really helping to ground and calm our energy and our bodies. So I'm going to be possibly using a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, don't worry about it, but if you do happen to have one, or you want to just grab a blanket that you can fold up or roll up, then you may want to use it. So let's begin. Also make sure you're nice and warm. So you can see I've still got my fuzzy socks on. It's helpful to stay warm when we are coming into these longer held, slower postures. So first thing we'll move into is a nice wide-kneed child's pose. So let's separate our knees at least shoulder width apart, possibly even a little bit wider. You're always welcome to put something underneath your bum if it feels like it's too intense on your knees or on your hips. So option one, if you do have a bolster, is you can kind of lean forwards onto your bolster and let your head rest on one side, and arms can just flop on the ground however they feel comfortable. Okay, and then about halfway through, we'll just make sure that you turn your head so you're balancing out your neck. Option two, just let yourself release all the way down to the ground. Forehead resting on the mat. So we'll be in each of these postures for approximately 1 to 2 minutes. And, sort of a rough estimate of that time is maybe around 10 slow cycles of breath is maybe about a minute. So right here in our first posture, in our wide child's pose, let's start to slow that breath down. So as you breathe in, try to feel your rib cage slowly filling up and expanding. You can think of a balloon filling up equally in all directions. And then exhale, slowly breathe that air out. Feeling your rib cage and your belly just soften back to neutral. And just keep going with that. So, nothing fancy, nothing complicated. Just focusing our attention, our mind onto our breathing. And letting that focus on our breath help to start to, center our mind, calm our energy. So keep that focus slowly filling up, feeling your lungs expand equally in all directions. Slowly breathe out. And as we stay here for another, maybe 4 or 5 cycles of breath, see if you can soften your shoulders, relax your shoulders. Relax the weight of your head a little bit more. And, if you are up on that bolster and you have your head turned, now would be a great time to turn your head in the other direction so that you're not just staying on one side of the neck. You also want to see if you can really let the weight of your hips soften and sink. So you're really relaxing as best as you can into the hip sockets, the hip joints. So we're trying to release our muscular effort, letting our muscles be really nice and soft. And there's a feeling of surrendering your body, surrendering the weight of your body into the ground. So let's finish up with our last 2 rounds of breath. See if you can let your face be soft as well. So relaxing the muscles in your face, around your eyes, in your cheeks and around your jaw. And then once you've finished with that last nice, slow, steady exhale, we'll start to bring ourselves back up off of the ground. Now, always with especially Yin Yoga, you want to really take your time coming into and out of each posture. So we don't want to rush ourselves as we're really kind of coming into this slow and intentional practice. Let's come to hands and knees.
Next thing we'll do is take our right foot forwards to the outside of your right hand, and we're coming towards a lizard stretch. So we're letting our hips sink forwards. Now if that back knee feels sensitive, then just put something underneath there. If you've got a pillow, blanket, or just fold your mat over so you've got a little more cushioning underneath that kneecap. Rest your weight on your hands here so you can really support yourself, and feel free to let your head dangle here so we don't have to hold our head. And we're focusing on, again, allowing the weight of the hips to really sink forwards. Back foot can have your toes tucked or untucked, doesn't really matter, just what feels more comfortable to you. And again, we'll focus on those really slow and deep breaths. So focusing on your breathing is a way to help anchor your mind on something so that we're not sitting in these postures just, frantically running through different thoughts or to-do lists. So it's partly a very meditative practice in that we are trying to maintain stillness in our body within these postures. We're also working to maintain an internal focus and quietness with our mind. So again, maybe we've got like 7-ish cycles of breath here. So we're sticking with maybe about 1 minute on each side. I want you to keep letting your hips sink really, really heavy. So if you want to take a quick look, our hips aren't moving back, or really letting our hips move towards the front of the mat. If you feel like you want to go deeper, you can always walk your hands forwards more, or bend your elbows. This is where if you did have, a bolster or some blocks or something, you could put your forearms down on the bolster or even all the way down on the ground with your forearms. So hanging out, maybe another 4 or 3 slow breaths. Really focus on still feeling that full breath all the way in and all the way out. And not just feeling your breath moving into your belly, but really trying to feel your breath moving into your rib cage. So trying to picture or visualize or even feel your whole rib cage expanding side to side, front and back. So again, that visual of a balloon might be helpful. How a balloon expands equally in all directions. And that's what we want to feel happening with our breath, with our rib cage. Let's finish up with our last breath here on this side. Slow and steady breath. And then quietly, slowly, mindfully, come on back up. And we'll shift our hips back. Be easy with yourself. Take your right leg behind you and give it a little shake out if you need to. So in between these postures, if there's any kind of wiggling and moving around that feels good for your body, go ahead and do that. Listen to your body. Let it kind of take you where it wants to. Almost like a way of helping to kind of integrate that stretch. So other side, left foot forwards to the outside of your left hand. Letting your weight really sink into that front foot and into your hands. So you're allowing your pelvis to just almost like drape forwards. Kind of like really heavy and sloppy almost with your hips. You're not trying to maintain really specific alignment here, but you're going more for the feeling of surrender, of letting go, of releasing your muscular effort. So try to find as much of a feeling of stillness in your body here as you can, so you're not constantly kind of moving around or shifting if it's not necessary, but you're really committing to this feeling of just being where you are without needing to constantly adjust or change or distract yourself from that. So stillness in your body, and then again, trying for, and the key word is trying, because our minds are busy places. We're trying for that sense of internal focus and quietness in our minds. So focusing on your breath. Again, you can use that as a place to anchor your mind. Focus on the feeling of your breath, the fullness of your breath, that slow, calm quality of your breath. So again, here, if you wanted to go deeper, you can walk your hands forwards, bring your forearms down to the ground or to a bolster or some blocks if you have some. You'll be here for another few rounds of your breath, slow and steady. Continue to check in with places where we like to unconsciously hold tension, like the shoulders, that's a big one. The face and the jaw is another big one, the neck. So just taking a quick scan through and softening any of those little pockets that like to try to hold on here. So we're really trying to release any unnecessary tension or gripping from the body. Sometimes it's nice to close your eyes, so go ahead and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. And then we'll finish up here, so coming back up onto our hands, nice and slow. Ease your way back, especially if that feels a little creaky, then go extra slow. And then maybe shake that left leg out a little bit, or any other movement. So sometimes a bit of cat-cow might feel nice just to kind of, again, integrate that stretch. So shifting back here to our feet, let's tuck our toes. Shift your way back to your feet, and then widen your feet, about as wide as your mat, and we'll turn our toes out and our heels in. We're coming into our yogi squat. So for some of you, you may feel good coming all the way down into your yogi squat. If that's not really accessible for you, you can always do a quick little roll up of your mat. Prop it underneath your heels, just to lift your heels up a little bit, and that can take some of the pressure off of your Achilles and your calves if they're a bit tight. You can always stick with a half version of the squat, like so as well. So that's great if you've got any knee issues that coming into that full flexion of the knees isn't good for. Stick with half squat. So normally we'll come into a yogi squat and maybe just stay for a couple breaths. So here, staying for that full minute might feel like a pretty significant challenge. So let's try to work with that challenge and keep our attention on that really steady breath to help us move through that moment of, maybe uncomfortable sensation. Of course, please listen if your body is really needing to come out of any of these shapes, then go ahead. Come out, take a quick sec, come back in, or just come into something else if need be. While you're in your yogi squat, again, shoulders easy, but try not to be super collapsed into your chest and into your spine. So we are trying to almost kind of like just very softly gather our shoulders back and keep our spine lengthened so that we've got some room for our organs, for our breath here while we're in our squat. So let's take about 4 or 5 more rounds of that same nice, steady, calm breath. You can really communicate to your body, to your nervous system with your breathing. So when you're really focusing on this really slow inhale, slow, steady exhale, you're sending those signals to your mind, to your body, to your whole system that everything's okay. When we start to breathe kind of like choppy, frantically, rapidly, that communicates very different signals to our body, to our nervous system. So using your breath here as a really important tool, 2 more rounds of inhale and exhale. And then last breath, almost there. And once you're finished that exhale, take your hands down, go slow. I'll just unroll my mat here. We're coming into a forward dangle. So slowly extend, stretch your legs. You don't have to stretch them out all the way. You can keep a soft little bend in your knees. Keep your feet wide. We're just bringing our feet nice and parallel, and then we'll dangle over our legs. And it's called dangle because you are truly just letting your upper body hang and dangle, kind of like Raggedy Ann sort of feeling. Wiggle out your shoulders a little bit, wiggle out your head, and feel the weight of your head, the weight of your skull, kind of pulling on your neck a little bit. So that nice feeling of sort of like traction, length on your neck and on your spine. Let your arms just be nice and loose, your shoulders be nice and loose. And here you can focus on the feeling of your face, of the skin and the muscles in your face, almost kind of like melting. And you can feel that feeling like your skin's just softly melting off of your face, nice and relaxed. No tension around your eyes, your mouth, your ears. This is an inversion, meaning your head and your heart are a little bit lower than the level of your pelvis. So you're getting some nice blood flow into your head. Can be another nice way of sort of grounding, of helping to slow down, to calm, and to ground our energy. 2 or 3 more rounds of breath here. Keep going for that sense of just truly dangling, letting yourself hang over the legs. You can always bend your knees more if you feel like you need to take a little pressure off of the hamstrings or off of your lower back. And then last full, slow breath. And then we'll let the hands come to the ground and just walk your way back out towards your hands and your knees. So let's open up the chest a little bit here, coming into our puppy dog pose. Keep your hips stacked on top of your knees. Place your hands just a tiny bit wider than shoulder width apart. And then we'll walk our hands forwards, letting your forehead soften to the ground and letting your chest soften towards the ground. So we're trying to open up through the shoulders and the chest here, and the upper spine. So keeping those hips stacked on top of your knees, really feeling with every exhale breath the sense of kind of like melting your chest towards the floor. And if this creates any pinching in your shoulders, okay, you can always kind of bend your elbows a little bit and just slide your elbows down, maybe just outside of your shoulders. So you're still getting a little bit of opening through that upper spine, but just not quite so much pressure into the shoulders. So keep that feeling of releasing the sternum, releasing the chest towards the ground, letting your chest open, letting that upper spine lengthen into a little bit of extension. And then 1 or 2 more breaths. And then to come out of this shape, just slide one hand back in underneath your shoulder, other hand in back underneath your shoulder, and then press up back to your hands and knees. Let's take just a little cat-cow to kind of move that through your spine. So on an exhale, round your back as much as you can. Press your hands into the ground. Let your head drop and get that real good stretch out between your shoulder blades and your spine. And then inhale to go the opposite direction. Try to open the front of your chest. Gently hug your shoulders back. And exhale again, round your spine. And just one more time. So breathing in, opening the chest. exhale to round. Good. Back to your just neutral spine. Come on through to your seat, and then we're going to lie down, and we will come into a twist. So we're going to lie down. Move my little microphone out of the way here. And first thing we'll do is come over onto our left side. So let's hug the knees into the chest, and then take your knees over towards the left side of your mat. Knees about belly button height, and your right arm is going to open towards the right side. So you're getting that nice spin and open through the chest. You could always put something between your knees if it feels like it's a little too much, so you can put like a pillow or a block or something in between your knees. So with your left hand, left arm, and this is always optional. Of course, everything's optional. So if you're just happy in this twist and you want to just chill out here, you can just ignore me. But for a little more feedback on your breath, you can take that left hand and put it on your your right side of your rib cage. So kind of like just down underneath your armpit somewhere. Now as you inhale, see if you can feel your breathing really expand into your hand that's there on your rib cage. So see if you can expand and puff that breath really into the side of the rib cage, and then exhale, just let it release back to neutral. And then keep going with that. And we're trying to feel those little muscles in between your ribs expanding, moving, and articulating through your rib cage and your upper spine, your thoracic spine. It's also, again, something to focus on with your mind to help stay in this sort of quiet, more calm and inner landscape. So inhaling, focusing on that breath, expanding into the rib cage. Exhaling, letting your belly soften, your rib cage soften, and your body just release into the ground. Let's take 2 more rounds on this side. 2 more rounds of breath. And last one. Good. Now coming to the other side, so just slowly sort of roll yourself nice and easy back through to center. You can always take a quick pause in between sides and just notice if one side feels a bit different than the other. When you're ready, take your knees over towards the right. So you can start by pulling them in towards your chest, or you can just kind of scooch them over, whatever works best for you. Again, put something between the knees if it feels better for you, if that feels good. Left arm drapes out towards the left side. And then you can take that right hand to your left side rib cage. Using your hand just to give you a little more tactile information, kind of like really something to feel your breath move into. So seeing if you can inhale into that hand, into the side of the rib cage, feeling as much as possible those ribs opening almost like a fan or an accordion. And slowly breathing out, feeling that you can really breathe all the way out to the very bottom. So you're emptying all of that air out of your lungs, not just halfway, but all the way. And then keep going with that. Expansive inhale. Directing your breath a little more into the rib cage, the side of the rib cage. Breathing out, feeling your body soften into the ground. Okay, again, that feeling, that sense of surrender, letting your weight release into the floor. And then just keep going with that. Again, simple, nothing complicated. All you need to do here is breathe. Get a few more rounds of breath, maybe 2 or 3 more rounds. And then last breath. And when you're done, slowly come on back through center. So getting your hips right underneath you. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. Let your knees butterfly out to the sides. So you're getting that little release through your inner thigh, inner hip, inner groin. Now for our arms, let's take our arms in eagle wrap. So you're going to wrap your left elbow, or it doesn't really matter, just one arm, as long as you switch it up on the other side. Wrap one arm underneath the other, and you can just hold on to opposite shoulders if you'd like you're giving yourself a hug, or you can continue to wrap those arms all the way up into those eagle arms. And then you're trying to kind of pull your elbows up towards the ceiling, up towards your head. And if you've got those full eagle arms, your fingertips are kind of drawing back behind your head. Now take 2 big breaths here and try to feel your breath really move into the back of your chest. So you're trying to almost like press your breath into that space between your shoulder blades and your spine. And then do that one more time. So really puff that breath between the shoulder blades and the spine. And then release your arms, and we'll just switch sides. You can kind of shake them out to the sides first, and then other arm underneath, or holding on to opposite shoulders, right? And if you are holding on to opposite shoulders, you're just kind of trying to drag your elbows up away from the chest slightly. So you're feeling that nice glide of your shoulder blades away from your spine. 2 big breaths, same thing. Inhale, puff the breath into the back of the chest. Exhale back to neutral one more time. One more round of breath right there. And then release your arms. Good. From here, let's just roll slowly over to one side. Come on up to your seat. Use your hands to help you. And we'll send our legs out in front of us. Let's have our legs a tiny bit wider than hip width apart. And if your hamstrings, the backs of your legs are quite tight, put a pillow underneath your seat to lift your hips up a little bit. We're coming just into a forward fold over the legs. So you can use a bolster for sure. Okay, so this is one way to use a bolster to support yourself. Or you could have your bolster kind of down on the ground between your legs, elbows to the floor, rest your forehead into your hands. Okay, or as always, you can just let yourself fully just flop and fold over top of the legs. One last little variation I'll show you, just in case, if your hamstrings are quite tight, you could put a bolster or a rolled up blanket underneath your knees, so your knees are a little bit bent, and then fold over your legs like so. Okay, so you can kind of choose what feels best for you. And we're going again, 8 to 10 nice slow breaths, and I want you to just let yourself dangle and fold. Stay nice and still as best as you can. So really commit to just being still within this posture. Feeling that slow and steady inhale, slow and steady exhale. And you can remind yourself that your only job here right now is just to breathe, to just focus on your breath. Anything else that you've got on your plate, anything else you've got going on in your life, just let it wait for a moment. Give yourself a little break. And tell yourself, all I need to do right now is just breathe in and breathe out. And then just keep doing that on repeat. breathing in and breathing out. Last 2 or 3 rounds of breath. Again, easy shoulders, easy face and neck. Now with your last breath, let's take a slightly exaggerated breath. So a nice deep inhale. And then kind of like a sighing exhale, just a real let go. Roll yourself slowly on up to your seat. Shake out your legs a little bit. Shake out your shoulders a little bit. And that is the end of our practice. So thanks so much for tuning in and see you next time. Namaste.